trees rise whispering, the echoes from the lone.
Welcome, wayward souls, to another descent into the quiet places beneath the world, where the soil remembers more than it should. As you step with me into the shifting shadows of Glastonbury's hidden lines and forgotten crossings, let your mind loosen its grip on the ordinary world. Let your breath slow, and let the darkness gather at the edges of your thoughts. Because what rises from the deep has been waiting a very long time to be heard. If you feel the pull of this place, if the story settles into you like a whisper you can't quite shake, remember to like, share, and subscribe so the echoes can travel further, finding others who walk the same strange paths you do, others who listen with the same uneasy curiosity, others who feel the ground shift beneath them and know it's not by accident. Now light your lanterns, drawing closer, for the hum is already rising. Justine arrives in Glastonbury at the hour when daylight is thinning but not yet gone. The sky stretched in a bruised gradient behind the dark outline of the Tor. And as she walks with the kind of careful, measured pace of someone who has returned to a place they once fled from, her recorder tucked into her coat pocket, her notebook swollen with damp pages that smell faintly of mould and old ink, her boots sinking into the soft waterlogged earth that seems to cling to her soles, as though reluctant to let her move. She stops at the base of the Tor, her breath catching in her throat as the hum presses against her awareness. Not loud, not even distinct, but present. Present in a way that feels like a fingertip tracing the inside of her skull. And as she tilts her head slightly, listening with a tension that tightens her jaw and narrows her eyes, tourists pass her without hesitation, their voices bright and oblivious, their footsteps light on the path, none of them flinching or pausing or reacting in any way that suggests they can hear the same low, steady resonance that seems to seep up through the soil and into her bones. "It's louder than last time," she murmurs, though the words are barely a sound at all, more like breath shaped into meaning. She clicks the recorder on as she climbs. The air cools rapidly, the wind thinning into a sharp metallic whisper that threads itself through the grass. And each step she takes seems to echo back at her with a muted thrum, as though the hill is not solid but hollow, as though something beneath the surface is shifting in slow, deliberate movements that do not belong to anything human. Halfway up, she stops again, her breath held tight in her chest as the hum deepens, not in volume but in proximity, as if it has risen through layers of soil to meet her. And the sensation is so sudden and so intimate, she feels her stomach twist. A burst of starlings erupts from the grass at her feet, their wings beating in frantic, disordered patterns that send them spiraling upward in a way that looks less like flight and more like escape. And the sound they make is jagged and panicked. Justine watches them scatter, her expression tightening, her fingers curling slightly as though resisting the urge to reach for something to steady herself. She kneels and presses her palm to the ground, and the soil feels warm, but not the warmth of sunlight or trapped heat, but pulsing warmth, rhythmic and alive, a warmth that seems to push back against her hand. She jerks her hand away, wiping it on her coat as though she's touched something that shouldn't be touched, something that has noticed her. And the hum shifts. It stretches, elongates, becomes something that resembles a voice only in the way a dream resembles memory. Familiar in shape, but wrong in every other way. Thin and distant, layered with distortion that makes her skin crawl. Justine's breath trembles. No, not again. The recorder crackles and the static rises like a warning. The wind dies so abruptly it feels as though the world has just been muted. The birds fall silent, and even the faint, ever present murmur of distant traffic seems to dissolve into nothing. The entire hill holds itself still. Then the voice beneath the soil is joined by another and another, but not in harmony, in convergence, as though countless throats buried deep in the earth are trying to form a single sound, a single intention, a single call. The ground vibrates beneath her boots with a slow, deliberate pulse that feels like a heartbeat buried far too deep. You're waking up, she whispers, though she doesn't know why she says it, only that the words feel pulled from her rather than spoken by her. And the choir stops. The silence that follows is so complete it feels like a blow. And Justine stands alone on the hillside, the last light draining from the sky, the tor looming above her like a dark, patient sentinel. And then from somewhere beneath her feet, a single knock rises through the soil, sharp and deliberate, unmistakably intentional. Justine freezes, her breath caught in her throat, her eyes widening with fear. That wasn't here last time. Justine descends the tor long after the last of the tourists have gone, moving with the uneasy caution of someone who knows she is being observed but cannot locate the watcher. And the path beneath her feet feels subtly altered, as though the soil has shifted in her absence. The hum does not fade as she walks. Instead, it stretches itself thin, trailing behind her like a thread pulled from the earth, vibrating with a tension that makes her shoulders tighten and her breath shorten. And every so often, she feels the faintest tremor beneath her boots. Not enough to be called movement, but enough to suggest something beneath the surface is adjusting its position. By the time she reaches the bottom of the hill, the sky has collapsed into a deep, heavy darkness, the kind that swallows the last traces of colour. The streetlights flicker with a sickly, intermittent glow that casts long, distorted shadows, shadows that seem to lag behind her steps as though reluctant to follow her. She walks towards the town centre, her recorder clutched tightly in hand, though she hasn't turned it back on since it died on the hillside. She keeps glancing at the screen as if expecting it to flicker back to life on its own. And the hum shifts again. It rises through the soles of her feet and travels up her spine. It settles beneath her ribs like a second heartbeat. And she stops walking because the sensation is so intimate that it feels like someone has placed a hand flat against her back. She turns and finds the path behind her empty, but the hum grows stronger. She steps backward, her breath trembling, her eyes fixed on the darkened slope of the tor. And for a moment, she thinks she sees movement near the crest, a deliberate ripple in the grass, as though something is shifting just beneath the surface. But the darkness is too thick to be certain, and the wind has died off again, leaving the night unnervingly still. So Justine forces herself to keep walking. The town feels wrong as she enters it, as though the familiar streets have been hollowed out and refilled with something that imitates their shape, but not their essence. And the shop windows reflect her in strange, elongated proportions, as if they're not quite keeping pace. She pauses outside a closed cafe, staring at her reflection in the darkened glass, and her reflection stares back. But the hum is not coming from the ground now, it's coming from the window. A faint vibration trembles through the glass, distorting her reflection. It's rhythmic, pulsing in a pattern that feels almost communicative, and her reflection flickers. And for a moment, just a moment, its mouth moves independently of hers, shaping a word she cannot hear, and a word she does not want to understand. Justine jerks back, her breath sharp and ragged, and the hum ceases. The glass stills, and her reflection returns to normal. But the silence that follows is worse than the sound, because it feels like the moment after something is inhaled deeply and is preparing to speak. She turns away from the window, her pulse hammering, and begins walking faster. Her boots now striking the pavement with a rhythm that feels too loud in the empty street. And she keeps glancing over her shoulder, even though she knows she won't see anything. Because whatever it is that is following her is not walking behind her, it's moving beneath her, threading itself through the foundations of the town. And as she passes the abbey grounds, the air thickens. The scent, like old blood soaked into ancient stone, fills her nostrils, and the hum returns with a slow rising pressure that makes her ears ache. A long, slow exhale rises through the soil, warm, deliberate, and brushing against the soles of her feet with a familiarity. And Justine whispers, barely audible, "You shouldn't be here." And the earth answers. A low, resonant note swells beneath her, so deep it feels like it's vibrating inside her bones. And the abbey's dark silhouette seems to lean towards her, listening, waiting. And then, from somewhere beneath the ground, far deeper than the knock on the door, far more confident and far more awake, comes a sound that is not a voice, not a word, but unmistakably directed at her. A single rising tone calling her name. Justine. She doesn't remember making the decision to keep walking, only the sensation of her body moving through the narrow streets of Glastonbury, as though guided by a current she cannot see. Her breath shallow and uneven, her pulse thudding in her ears. The night has thickened into something almost tactile, a dense, humid darkness that clings to her skin and muffles the sound of her footsteps. She passes the abbey wall again, and the air around it feels swollen with a pressure that makes her teeth hurt. A low, resonant density that seems to seep almost from the stones themselves, as though this ancient structure has begun to exhale something it has held trapped for centuries. Justine keeps her eyes forward, but she can feel the weight of the place pressing against her back. And she knows, without knowing how she knows, that if she turns around now, she'll see something standing in the darkness. So she forces herself onwards, boots striking that pavement with a rhythm that feels increasingly disconnected from her own, as though her body is beginning to lag behind her own intentions. And the hum rises again, But this time it's not from the ground and it's not from the windows, but from the air around her. A trembling resonance that vibrates inside the very atmosphere, making street lamps flicker in sympathetic pulses and making the leaves on the trees shiver without wind. Justine stops walking, and the air around her feels charged with static. And she realizes, with a creeping horror, the hum is no longer a single note, it's layered, textured, shaped into something that could resemble breath, as though countless unseen throats are inhaling in unison. Justine's hand trembles as she reaches for her recorder. And when she presses the button, the device flickers to life with a weak, stuttering glow, and the hum sharpens. It narrows into a single focused frequency that seems to pierce the air like a needle. And she whispers, "Not here," though the words feel useless. But the hum stops, and an absolute silence fills the space. And then a breath, and then a voice. Not loud, not whispered, not even human. A voice shaped from vibrations that seems to rise from the very air. "You left something in the hill." Justine's entire body goes rigid. She doesn't turn. She can't turn. She's frozen on the spot as the voice continues. "We kept it for you." And the air behind her shifts. A slow displacement, like something large adjusting its weight. And the temperature drops so sharply her breath fogs in front of her, though the night had been warm moments before. Justine forces her legs to move. One step, and then another. And the voice follows her. "Come back." She breaks into a run, her breath tearing at her throat, her boots slamming against the pavement with a frantic, uneven force. And the town seems to wrap around her, the streets stretching into unfamiliar angles and the buildings leaning inwards. The hum rises behind her, swelling into a vast, resonant chorus that vibrates through the air with a terrible, rising urgency. And she realizes with a sinking certainty the choir is no longer beneath the soil. It's above it, and it's everywhere. Justine presses herself against the cold stone of an alley wall, her breath shuddering in uneven bursts, and for a long moment she cannot tell whether trembling is in her limbs, is her own fear, or the lingering vibration of the choir that has begun to seep into the very air around her. The alley is narrow and crooked, the kind of passage that feels older than the buildings that flank it, older than the street it empties onto, and older even than the town itself. And as she forces herself to move deeper into it, she feels a strange pressure beneath her feet. She stops, her hand braced against the wall, and the stone feels warm beneath her palm. The day she was on the tour, because she did feel this before, years ago, on the tour, when she first realized that the hum was not a sound, but a signal. The air thickens, the shadows shift, and the hum begins again. Not from the ground this time, but from the walls themselves, rising through the stone in long, resonant waves that makes the mortar tremble. Justine closes her eyes. She knows exactly what this is. She has always known. Glastonbury is a knot in the earth, a place where the old lines converge, lines that run beneath the land like veins carrying something older than myth. And she can feel those lines now, rising through the pavement, threading through the walls, converging beneath her feet with a precision that feels intentional, as though the land itself has turned its full attention towards her. The hum sharpens, narrowing into a single piercing frequency. And she realizes with dread the ley lines are not just beneath the town, they're beneath her skin, beneath her ribs, threading themselves through her like invisible wires. And the ground shifts. A slow, magnetic drag that tugs at her ankles, drawing her to the far end of the alley, where the darkness is thicker. She digs her heels into the pavement, but the pull only strengthens. A steady and insistent force. Her recorder flickers to life in her hand, despite not having pressed the button. The screen glows with that same faint, sickly light, and the device emits a low, distorted tone, one that doesn't match the hum around her but resonates with it, harmonizes, completes it. And the alley darkens, the air thickens, and the ley lines beneath her feet flare with a sudden violent heat that makes her gasp and stumble. The sensation so intense it feels the ground has opened up beneath her. And then a voice rises from the darkness. Not the choir, not the vibration, a single, low, ancient voice. You stood on the crossing once. You opened it. Her pulse slams against her ribs. She takes a step back, but the ley lines pulse beneath her, holding her in place. And the voice comes again. Closer now. And we did not forget you. The alley behind her seals itself in shadow, and the darkness ahead of her thickens. The ley lines pulse in a slow rising heartbeat, and then a shape steps forward. Not fully formed or fully visible, but a silhouette made of vibration and shadow. Its edges flickering like heat haze in its presence, bending the air around it in slow, nauseating waves. And Justine cannot move. The shape lifts its head, and the ley lines beneath her flare with blinding white-hot pulse. You shouldn't have come back. Justine doesn't remember falling to her knees, only the sensation of the ground rising to meet her. And for a moment she cannot tell whether she is kneeling on stone or on something that has been waiting for her to kneel upon it. The shape in the alley doesn't move closer, yet the air around it thickens with a density that makes her vision warp at the edges. And the hum returns. A pressure, a deep internal force that pushes against her ribs from the inside. And the shape tilts its head. The movement is small, almost imperceptible, but the air reacts violently, rippling outward in a wave that makes the walls of the alley shudder and the ground beneath her pulse. As she realizes that the ley lines are not converging beneath her, they are opening, and the pavement cracks. Not with a sharp, brittle sound of breaking stone as you'd expect, but with a slow, wet tearing as though the ground has been stitched shut and is unpicking from beneath. And a thin light seeps through the widening fissure. Justine tries to scramble back, but the heat beneath her flares, gripping her ankles with a force. She gasps as the light beneath the pavement pulses in time to her heartbeat, and the shape speaks again. You opened the crossing. The fissure widens, the light brightens, and the heat intensifies. and Justine's breath comes in sharp, ragged bursts as the ground beneath her begins to shift. The pavement rising and falling in slow, undulating waves. And she realizes that ley lines are not lines at all, they are veins. Veins that are waking, that are filling, that are preparing to carry something upwards. We kept what you left, the shape says, as Justine shakes her head. I didn't leave anything, though the words feel hollow and untrue and pulled from her by something that knows more about her past than she does. The fissure beneath her splits open, and a rush of warm air rises from the depths, carrying with it a scent that is not just earth and stone. It's not anything she can name. A scent that feels like memory, like something old. And the shape leans forward, next to her ear, and whispers, "You left your echo." And Justine's breath stops. The vibration lifts, it hovers and leans towards her, and then it speaks. In her voice, "You promised you'd come back." Justine tries to crawl backward from the widening fissure, but the heat rising from the ley lines has thickened into something dense and pulsing, holding her in place. And the vibration hovering above the chasm, her echo, her voice, her unfinished self, shimmers with a sickly luminescence that bends the air around it in long distortions. And as it gets closer, she feels a coldness spread across her skin. Coldness that tells her this thing knows her in ways she spent years trying to forget. And the echo speaks again. "You left me in the hill. I didn't know." But the words feel thin and useless, and the fissure beneath her splits even further. And the shape in the alley finally moves, but not forwards or closer, just straightens itself. A motion that is so small, but the effect is catastrophic. The ley lines beneath her flare with a violent intensity that sends a shockwave through the pavement, cracking the stone even further. Jagged lines that radiate outward like fractures in bones, and the echo above the fissure expands, its form stretching into a tall, wavering silhouette that flickers with a terrible embryonic awareness. Justine tries to stand, but her legs do not respond, and the echo leans in closer. "You promised you'd return." Justine's breath tears from her throat. "I never promised," though the words feel like lies even to her. And the echo flickers with a sudden, violent pulse that makes the fissure widen even further. And then the shape in the alley speaks. "You opened the crossing. You left your echo. You left your place." The words hit her with a force that makes her stomach twist because she remembers. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. That night on the tour, that ritual she should never have joined, the moment the ground opened, the moment something stepped forward, and the moment she stepped back. The echo rises higher, its form stabilizes, and it becomes almost human, almost her. "You left me to hold the line." The pavement buckles and the heat surges. And from the depths of the chasm, something begins to climb. Not a creature, not a form, but a mass of vibrating air and light and sound. A coalescing presence. Justin screams. The recorder captures it, distorted and fractured, and the echo reaches for her. Its hand is not a hand, its fingers are not fingers, its touch is pure vibration, and as it brushes her cheek, we close the story on a single devastating revelation, whispered in her own voice. You were never meant to leave the hill. Justine feels the vibration hovering above the fissure, leaning closer. The echo's face, if you could call it a face, shimmers with a shifting translucence. The shape in the alley remains still, yet its presence expands. The echo speaks again, but not in her voice this time, in the voice she had before she left the hill. You didn't leave me behind. You left yourself behind. And the words hit her. The ritual on the tour, the circle of stones, the moment they ley lines opened, the moment she split, and the shape in the alley finally speaks. The crossing takes one and leaves one. Justine shakes her head, but the movement is weak and trembling, and her voice barely a whisper as she says, That's not what happened. That's not what happened. Her memories fracture, her vision swims. You were meant to stay, the echo was meant to leave. And the echo leans close enough that she can feel it against her skin. You took my place. The fissure erupts with a violent pulse of light, and from the depths of the chasm something rises. The echo reaches for her. I want it back. You don't belong out here. Justine feels the alley tilt beneath her as the fissure widens with a slow, grinding inevitability. The pavement splitting open like a wound that has been waiting years to tear itself back into the world. The echo, her echo, hovers inches from her face, stabilizing into a shimmering, translucent version of herself. And the shape in the alley straightens again, and the echo strokes its hand, if you can call it a hand, along her face. You were meant to stay. I held the line for you. Please, whispers Justine, though she does not know who she's even pleading with. And the echo flickers with a sudden violent pulse, and the shape in the alley lifts its head, and the ley lines beneath her flare. It's time to come home. The light swallows. The hum silences. And so, wayward souls, as we rise from the depths of this tale and leave the trembling earth to its restless dreaming, let the silence that follows settle into you like a low, unfinished note, the kind that lingers in the bones long after the sound itself has faded. And before we part, the choir leaves you with a song, soft and low, and meant to be heard in the quiet between breaths. Down in the dark where the ley lines sleep, something hums low in the hollow and deep, calling the lost with a promise to keep. Come back, to the place that we keep. Under the soil where the roots twine, voices rise slow in wavering line, humming a note that is almost divine. What once was yours is forever still mine. Follow the sound where the shadows grow thin. Follow the pull of the echo within. Follow the hum to the place you've been. The door never closed. You just didn't step in. Until next time, wanderers, listen closely, for the earth is never truly silent.